What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back to discuss the Detroit Lions 2022 NFL Draft. And today, we're taking a look at some players that the Detroit Lions are reportedly bringing in for a tryout in this year's rookie minicamp. We're back with another pre-recorded video here. It's been a minute since we've done a pre-recorded video here. We've done a lot of streams recently. The last one was our predictive mock draft. And this year, we got two correct. We got Hutchinson and we got Kirby Joseph. Actually, I think we were kind of on to something there. We got the cornerback's teammate with our last pick. But technically, we only got two right. But that's okay for me. Last year, we got one. This year, we got two. Next year, we get three right. Who knows? We'll see how it goes down. I got to go back and look at the comments of that video to see if anybody was like really close, and maybe we'll give something away for that. Today, we're going to take a look at some of those players that the Detroit Lions are bringing in for tryouts for this year's rookie minicamp, because one of these guys I really liked heading into the draft, and now he's going to get a chance to show the Lions what he's all about in a few weeks. So let's get it started.
The Detroit Lions select Aiden Hutchinson.
Welcome everybody to our video. Glad you guys are here, and we're back for another draft video, man. Now, as you guys know, the draft has just taken place, and we're going to go through all of these players individually. We're going to give out some grades. We're going to give out letter grades, but we're also going to give out like prospect grades as well, beyond just like A, B, C, D, or F. Like we'll throw that in there because, you know, position, where we got in the draft, things like that, but also draft prospect grades. So keep that in mind. For these players, it may be a little bit tougher because I don't have as much film as I have on some of the other players that we actually drafted, but we'll get it all figured out. There's a player in here today that we're going to give a draft prospect grade to. As you guys can see, we got some new additions to the background. The draft hat, I see you when Hutchinson put that on. I was like, we got some new additions to the background. So it's looking good back here. We actually have a flag, or not really a flag, it's a towel, but it kind of looks like a flag, so I hung it up there. You can't see it probably because the angleism, but it looks good. Talk about the players that the Detroit Lions signed to UDFA deals, but I thought we'd kick it off by talking about the players that so far, reportedly, the Lions are bringing in for a tryout. More players could be added to this list, but so far it has been reported that 3 players I've seen are coming in for a tryout for the Detroit Lions for rookie minicamp, which is going to take place, I believe it was May 14th through May 16th. And you can have guys in for tryouts during that time to kind of just show what they can do. And possibly from there, you could end up making the team. You may just not be brought back. You don't really know. When you're a UDFA sign, you got a little bit of better shot because they're already kind of giving you guaranteed money. Some guys make a lot more than others. Some of these UDFAs make more money than 7th round picks. You know, if there's enough guaranteed money thrown out there at those players, if there's a lot of teams interested. UDFA signings, a little bit more likely, but still, you just really want to get your foot in the door with a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys are from small schools and are just looking for an opportunity to prove themselves. So we'll dive into the draft picks and things like that, but I really wanted to kick it off with this route because there is a quarterback on this list that we're really going to focus on in this video. We'll talk about the other 2 players a little bit as well, but the quarterback that I really liked heading into the draft process, we know the Lions did not sign, or excuse me, they did not draft a quarterback this year. They did not sign one so far, as we know, as an undrafted free agent. So still, they're currently sitting with David Blau, Tim Boyle, and Jared Goff. Now, because of them both being brought back on 1-year deals, you can understand why the Lions maybe didn't sign one as a UDFA, because then you'd have 4 quarterbacks and you're probably ultimately going to cut somebody then at that point, which almost makes it as whatever guarantee money, and it may not be a lot. You may end up just kind of eating that because that guy's going to get cut anyway. So it is a little bit nicer to just bring him in on a tryout. You know, the draft board was very interesting this season. It's not like every year quarterbacks were going very late. I think a lot of it, though, did make sense. Like Malik going round 3, I think it's a fair round for him. I wouldn't have took him anywhere near round 1, so that one wasn't super surprising. But then you got guys like Carson Strong who went undrafted. He got picked up by Philadelphia very quickly. I think they threw a lot of guaranteed money at that guy, and that's a player I really liked. Maybe it's because of the leg injury, whatever it is. All right, so let's start off with this quarterback first. This is a guy that I have talked about before. The Lions actually brought this player in for a local visit, I believe, before the draft took place, which is what brought me on to this player. Then I start watching him like, wow, I really like this guy. This guy might be draftable. Of course, he goes undrafted, which makes sense. You look at his production, you look at where he's coming from. It's very understandable why he went undrafted. But now the Lions are bringing in for a rookie tryout, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, maybe there's an opportunity he could actually somehow squeeze his way onto the Lions practice squad, or possibly become that 3rd string quarterback for the Detroit Lions. When you look at David Blau's contract, yes, he's under a 1-year deal, but there is not a ton of guaranteed money, so there is potential for someone to possibly try and take that spot. David Blau seems a little bit more locked in because of his guaranteed money being over $1 million. This guy impresses. Maybe he does end up making the roster for the Detroit Lions. So I want to start with him first. That is Connor Sampson out of Western Illinois. We actually do have a little write-up on doseofdn.com of Connor Sampson, and his grade, I'm going to change it a little bit here as I went and watched him once again. I watched another game on this player. Some of these guys, there's just not a lot of film you can find, so it makes it a little more difficult. I've been able to find multiple games, however, for Western Illinois, so I feel pretty good about this one. 5-year player for Western Illinois. It was his second senior season, I guess basically you could say, as he redshirted when he got there. He's a 6'3", 215-pound quarterback from Michigan, so he is I guess a local kid that the Lions are bringing in here, that last season put up 22 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, over 3,000 yards passing, just under 3,200 passing yards. He was sacked 48 times, which is a lot. I think that's something that's worth mentioning, and you see on film why that is the case, partially due to their offensive line not holding up in pass protection at times. Sometimes you could probably put that blame on him. 48 sacks, but at the same time, he did complete over 65% of his passes. Now, those statistics may not jump out at you where you're like, hey, you look at Bailey Zappi, 60 touchdowns, 11 picks. You're like, whoa, what's going on there? And then you throw in the fact that he's playing for Western Illinois. And now you really start to get some questions, and you do understand why he was undrafted. However, when you do watch him, there are some things that definitely stick out. Actually, there's some areas that I would argue he might be better at than Kenny Pickett, who was drafted at pick number 20 in this year's draft. Not saying he's a better player, but there's a couple things that I think he may actually do better. So let's start with the pocket presence. Let's start with the poise, okay? Let's start with how he is in the pocket. This is one of the areas where I think he's actually at his best. Not perfect. Inside the pocket, he does multiple things well. The first thing, you talk about poise under pressure, willingness to stand in the pocket, take a hit, and deliver the pass. Connor Sampson does this extremely, extremely well, especially on third downs, fourth downs, gotta have it downs, we're down big, where it's like a check down does me no good. This is the type of player that will stand in, take a hit, especially if he anticipates a certain route to be in a certain area. He is not afraid to take that thump and deliver the pass. And usually they still come out accurate. We'll talk about when it does get inaccurate. But this is an area where he really stands out to me because he's willing to take the hit, deliver the pass, and put the ball where it needs to be. Now, I say the third down thing, the fourth down thing, because it does show up. And when you look at the 48 sacks, I think that's partially why his sacks are so high. Not all the reason, but partially. He is one of these players where if it's 3rd and 9, he's not throwing the ball 2 yards. The ball's not going to be a check down. If, we're down 3 scores and there's 2 minutes left, he's not looking for a check down. There may not even be a check down route option. For him, if it's that situation, he is looking to at least throw the ball 9 yards or to a receiver that is designed to pick up that first down. He does not take the, couple yards and then, we'll punt it away. That's not how he does it. So you get to those situations, you're going to get some sacks because he's going to hang in there and try to wait till something pops open rather than just taking the couple yards. We do talk about sacks. It's kind of crazy to say this because you're like 48, that's a lot. He still does avoid sacks pretty well. I would say he's actually pretty good at doing this. And when we talk about, athleticism, you talk about guys that are outside the pocket, how big their arm are, things like that. But what's important with Connor Sampson is that he's athletic within the pocket. And that's where things get important. To be able to keep your eyes downfield, keep that poise, yet move the pocket from inside the tackles. That's huge. Inside the pocket, athleticism, where you see him consistently step up into the pocket. We said he's willing to take a hit and deliver. He moves really well in small spaces within the pocket. And this is where he finds a way to avoid a lot of sacks. He's the type of player, especially on early downs. Again, if it's 3rd down, he might take that sack. But on early downs, he's going to find a way to try not to take that sack. Sometimes it can be dangerous. So they'll throw it at the ground. And you're like, oh, that's intentional grounding. But for the most part, he has a really nice ability to escape, get outside, and get the ball away. Just do not take the sack. So while you look at the 48 and you're like, that's probably not the case at all, it is something that I've noticed in every game I've watched. Is he has a really nice ability to avoid sacks and then get the ball across the line of scrimmage and out of bounds to basically save that down and live to play another down. But as we said, his movement in the pocket is very impressive. He is very smooth stepping up into the pocket. This is another area where, especially what you see with a lot of teams, you see a lot of quarterbacks coming out with a lot of teams in college, is that you're getting a lot of these spread offenses. You're getting heavy RPO offenses. That's not to say he didn't do that. He did run a lot of shotgun. He did run some RPOs. Not a ton, but he did do some in there. But what you see with him is that he can really do any type of drop back extremely smooth. Be a very quick 3-step drop back, and it's not clunky. He still gets separation between him and the snap. That way he can give himself some space. He could do a 5-step drop, 7-step drop. It's very smooth, and that's not something you see a ton with a lot of guys coming out in this class, because you're like, well, this is an area where he's going to have to improve. He played in you know, an offense that did do some pro style things where they would work under center. And when he's working through progressions, he constantly gets his feet set. Another thing that I noticed, they like to really roll him out. So they'll roll him out of the pocket, which we've seen Goff do a ton. Then they'll ask him to reset his feet, throw the ball across his body to the opposite side of the field. Now, I don't know if I love that play for the NFL often as they do it, but it does show the footwork to roll one way, reset his feet, gather, and then put the ball to the other side of the field, doing it smooth, efficient, and quickly. It can't take forever and be all clunky. That way he can keep everything kind of in rhythm. So his feet, the way ability to move through progressions, step up in the pocket, you know, kind of that hitch, while also keeping his eyes downfield. I said he will take some sacks here, especially on those third downs, things like that. He's not going to just take the check down, but I also think he can improve just in general at finding the check down a little bit quicker. Sometimes he can kind of get caught on what his progressions are downfield rather than finding the check down much quicker than he does. So he's pretty patient in the pocket. He will sit there, stand there, and allow things to open up. But the kind of the fallback behind that is that if you get a clean rush off the backside, his blind side, he doesn't always have a great feel for that, and you do see some strip fumbles in there. Okay, that's something that you got to watch for. You will see some strip sacks. He's very patient, looking to pass the ball, and he's kind of holding it in a position where he's ready to pass it. So ball security did show up a few times. Now, when you talk about having command of the line, you talk about having command of the offense, the coverage reads, pre-snap and post-snap. This is an area again where I think he thrives. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a lot of all-22 film, which makes it much more difficult to really see, you know, what kind of zone coverage he's reading and how he's attacking that zone coverage based on what he's seeing. Let's just start with kind of the command at the line of scrimmage. This is a guy that, again, I said runs, you know, some pro-style offense. You see a lot of post-snap movement, whether that's sweeps, you know, jets. Also handles all the protections at the line of scrimmage. And sometimes he'll be up there barking out protections for 15 seconds. You know, he's getting everybody aligned. He reacts to how a defensive adjusts, the hard count. We saw Goff do this a lot last season, and he sets up all the protections, cornerback rushes, you know, linebacker blitzing, all of those things. He does that all at the line of scrimmage. So you won't see him very often just line up and snap the ball. You see a lot of times he's doing a lot of pre-snap protections, and he's handling that all at the line of scrimmage. And again, being a 5-year player, you would expect that he'd have that kind of command. I'm noticing pre-snap where certain reads are. If a cornerback starts to sag off, if there is no one in that underneath zone, he will quickly find a way to get the ball to that player. Carson Strong, I think this is an area that he shines because he moves the defender and then finds it, but he will throw passes before they even come out of their break based on what he can see. That ties in with facing the blitz. So we talk about his poise, his willingness to stand there in the pocket, but if you do throw a blitz at him, he's the type of guy that will find where the blitz is coming from, identify that, and then work back to the blitz and try to deliver a pass there. And again, he's going to take that hit, stand in there, and deliver that pass. In terms of coverage reads, you do see some of the anticipation that he has within his game. And this is an area where I thought Kenny Pickett was very conservative. A guy that, yeah, he went top, he went first round, but you saw a lot of rests with Kenny Pickett where he didn't show that anticipation to throw a pass behind a linebacker and zone coverage over the middle of the field, that kind of thing. He missed a lot of shots over top. Sampson may have missed some shots over the top as well because of the angle that you get. He is a high anticipation player. Can work against him. He will anticipate something's going to be there, and it will turn into an interception because it doesn't open up like he thinks it will. And I think this is an area where he could be a little bit better with his eyes. So is the anticipation of, okay, a linebacker is here, this is where the route's going, I'm going to deliver that pass when they're even, but I'm going to set it out in front of him and it's going to drop right in the bucket. But where I think he could improve with this, first off, is he could lick these routes off much earlier in the rep. He can find himself kind of staring down where he knows it's going to open up, but he's staring it down. If you would have looked that off and then come back to it, you consistently open that up. Also, I think there's times where he can make some bad decisions, specifically when he might have a pass that he could fit into a small hole. And he's shown some ability to rip passes in. I mean, I'm not saying he has a huge arm, but he can, especially underneath. But sometimes he'll lean on that anticipation, throw a pass 5 yards out instead of really just trying to squeeze it into the immediate hole that he sees. And because of that, he can allow defenders to get back into the play. But you do see that anticipation. It can work against him, but he does anticipate when he's about to clear a linebacker, delivers the pass, and it can lead to some beautiful throws. You also see it on, for example, cover 2 reps. And again, this comes back to what you see pre-snap. He'll see a cornerback getting really tight, get press coverage. Then he snaps it. He sees how the safeties are playing it. He knows that zone is going to be there. The quarterback has eyes on him. So all of a sudden he's going to that, vertical route up the sideline, and he will deliver that pass between the cornerback and safety. He is very trusting in what he sees, what he believes is going to be there. There is really, to me, no lack of confidence in, hey, the anticipation throws here, the ball's going there. He's almost the guy that at times you have to dial back more than anything because he's going to try to put that ball in that hole if he believes that's where it's going to open up. if he believes it's where it's going to open up. That doesn't mean he's reckless and just firing passes into tiny windows. He does have a lot of trust in what he's seeing. Whereas where you look at those interceptions and you see those start to come and play. We talked about the sacks. When it comes to interceptions, you can see them kind of come and play here because, again, anticipation throws have worked against him. Where he thinks something's going to open up, he thinks he sees something early to play, he'll lead the ball out 10 plus yards, and a defender standing right there. The pass doesn't open up like he thought it would, and then it's picked off. Also, you can see him, again, and this is why I talk about finding that check down quicker, because he can get kind of locked into what he sees downfield. Now, better pass protection, when he has time in the pocket, he's usually finding something open. That's usually what you notice. He's not afraid to stand in the pocket, take a hit, and deliver a pass. Well, he can get himself into trouble here, sometimes not finding the check down, kind of waiting for that over-the-top read to open up, anticipating it's going to be there, and then it turns into a last-second thing. He doesn't want to take the sack. If he sees the sack, he's not trying to take it. Now, if he doesn't see it, or if it's off his blind side, he'll take the sack. But if he doesn't, if he can see where the rush is coming from, he's trying to get that ball. So sometimes he'll get himself stuck in the pocket, and he'll have to get the ball out of his hands to avoid a sack, and that's when he puts the ball into harm's way. It becomes a jump ball. The anticipation wasn't there. What he was waiting to kind of open up or try to, line up so he could deliver the pass, he's forcing things early, and then the pass becomes a jump ball. It's double coverage. It's picked off. He didn't just take the check down and move on, and then things get picked off. And that can really happen on some of those gotta have it downs, which I got no issue on 3rd and 10. We got to get the first down. It's late in the game. We're down a couple scores, or 4th and 10. I don't have an issue in that, but early in the games, that thing can be a killer. And at the same time, and it kind of gives me some Sam Howell vibes, when I said he doesn't take sacks, finds a way to get the ball, finds a way to throw the pass away. He does have a lot of trust in himself, and there are occasions where he'll break outside the pocket. He'll break the immediate progression. He'll get outside. The play starts to break down. Even if the route is open, passes do kind of, sail on him, and we'll talk about why that is in his accuracy part next and why passes do get up. But he'll roll out and he'll trust himself to make a pass 25 yards downfield. The pass will sail, and then at that point, the ball can be picked off. So there's reasons why it throws picks. It's almost like you have to dial him back, but I'd probably rather have to dial a guy back than say, oh my gosh, you have to throw this. This is there, you have to throw the ball. You have arm strength and accuracy, release, all those kind of things. First thing is he does have a pretty rapid release where he can get the ball out of his hands really quickly, and like I said, with his feet, being in that pro style type of offense, he can really set his feet quickly, and he tries to make most of his passes with his feet set. You don't see a ton of feet spread out, off balance, trying to throw the pass. He usually tries to get his feet set, and you will see that he can very quickly get his feet set, get his feet under him, line it up with his upper body, and he gets the ball out very quickly. He has a very quick release when he needs to. So he shows the ability to adjust that release. And you like it because you'll get passes like screens, things like that, where you will see him take something off the ball, make it a much more catchable pass underneath. He doesn't rip those passes 3 yards away from him. He'll take a little bit of velocity off the ball and make sure that he gives his running back or receiver or the underneath drag a much easier play at the football. Where I think you start to see some inaccuracy, specifically when you get rushers in his face. He has shown ability to throw some sidearm passes, to show some arm angles, specifically I think on rollouts, but there are too many occasions where a pass rush gets in his face, the guy puts his arms up, and instead of trying to go around, he tries to go over top, and he does that a lot. Tries to go over top, ball gets tipped, and then it's inaccurate. Or if you also notice, and here's where I think he needs to improve when you talk about some of the passing mechanics, do tend to come out as release point a little bit high and almost like a little bit early, and you don't consistently see him step up and you see him step into throws. Now at times this is good. It can be okay because you'll have reps where you're backing up, you feel the pressure, you're off your back foot, you have to deliver, and he's usually still pretty darn accurate because he's got a lot of work at doing that. At that point, you don't always get that drive forward where the ball starts to come down and turn over. Instead, it kind of lofts up a little bit, starts to get too much air under it. His release point doesn't come and follow through, so passes start to sail, specifically underneath. We talked about when he's breaking the pocket, breaking contain, doesn't always step into it, can kind of just stand and throw off his back foot. Passes start to sail because of that. Passes get inaccurate. So I would say for him, you want to improve finishing through the throw consistently. He moves his feet really well. You just want to improve his finishing through the throw to try to keep that ball down and become a lot more consistent. But you do see those coverage reads in that anticipation where the ball is out, he's finding zone holes, out route where, like I said, he's patient. He's not catching it and just firing it and it becomes dangerous and he's, super trigger happy. He's still patient, but he has a very fast release. So they kind of combine well because he shows the patience to wait a second. You see this here where the linebacker takes the inside receiver, the patience to not immediately let go of this football, but then also that quick release to come back and hit the outside receiver. Good ball placement towards the sideline and complete this pass. Let's just talk about accuracy accuracy when you talk about ball placement. And this is kind of an area I actually liked where Malik Willis was. We talked about the changing of velocity based on the situation, right? Is it tight coverage? Okay, I might have to put some more heat on this. Is it a little more looser coverage? Can I check this down but also put some air under it? But man, just a pure ball placement accuracy. If he follows through with the pass in the upper body and it doesn't get up on him, man, he delivers some beautiful throws. And he's a quarterback that I like for his anticipation, his timing, you know, that kind of thing, like a Jared Goff. So I can understand schematically why they liked him. But you see some passes down the sideline, which are just beautiful. And even with pressure in his face, the opportunity that he gives guys, and his arm doesn't pop off, doesn't seem to be very limited in any area either. I'm not sure 20 plus yards down the field, he's going to rocket passes into small tight windows. And I don't know if he could throw the ball 50 plus air yards, but on time, on schedule, into my drop back to just deliver the ball where it needs to be consistently, he could just drop that thing right in the bucket. You saw with that throw between the corner and safety, those type of touch throws, man, when he gets down on the pass, it is pretty. I gotta believe that since the Lions had him in for a visit, they probably threw some film. Hey, this guy, he may be reading pretty well what he sees here, and that's why they're bringing him in for another opportunity, and that comes with this rookie Trout, because he must have done pretty darn well in that top 30 visit to be brought back once again because of the fact that he went undrafted. And I could see potential here for him to possibly actually make this team, more so likely as a practice squad player, who knows, but maybe down the road he becomes your backup. I have a higher grade on dosedina.com than I'm actually going to give him. I'm going to give him a 5.6 grade, basically kind of putting him in that inconsistent category, but has potential to be a good backup in the NFL. I think that's where I put him. I don't think he's limited athletically. I don't think he's dynamic, but I don't think he's limited either. But he uses enough body control and athleticism to move the pocket well. You have seen some scrambles in there, not a ton, but you've seen some. But I love just the way that he keeps his eyes down the field, and he really can manage and control an offense. It's just about taking care of the football a little bit better than he has. I'd love to see him in an NFL offense just to see what he looks like, because I think pro style wise, he may be a lot cleaner than a lot of guys coming out in this year's class from what you see in college. Now, that's the first player. I wanted to dive in him deep because, you know, I liked him and I said we would do it. Now that he's brought back, I'm very excited. We'll see how he does. We'll see if he gets an opportunity to get signed as UDFA. There's two other players that have been listed. Lions are going to be bringing in for rookie minicamp, which is basically you get all the rookies in there. They're going to go through drills. It is an opportunity for you to bring in guys, you know, like this for tryouts to see what they can do. You got a 3-day, you know, window there to do it. You also get to see your UDFAs. So every team gets this opportunity after the draft. The Lions is May 14th through May 16th. And there are two more players that have been listed. This could continue to be added to, but there are two more players that have been listed. Also, you have to keep in mind roster space. If you don't have a ton of roster space, now look, we have not signed our draft picks yet, so later down the road. We know they're drafted, we just haven't technically signed them yet, so you still do have some roster space, but you have to keep in mind how much roster space you actually have to sign UDFAs, because they do count against your roster. They can be cut, of course, but they do count against your roster. So the two other players we've seen listed, the first one I don't know a ton about. This is Jalen Martin out of Pitt State. All right, now Jalen Martin was actually an Iowa State transfer, so he hasn't always been there. I know last he was there at Iowa State, he was mainly just utilized as a special teams guy. So he's transferred out, goes to Pitt State. Last season, he puts up 53 receptions for over 800 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. He was a second-team all-conference player, and he said that at his, you know, pro day, where he was super grateful for the opportunity to just get a chance. He was trying to show teams what he could do at his 40 time, and I believe he ran a 4.57. I don't know, obviously that's not official, but that's the number I've seen, is that he ran a 4.57. He's a 6'3", 205 receiver that I think was actually listed at about 6'1.5" when they went through his pro day. Has a little bit of size. He's more of a 50-50 ball type of receiver. I just have unfortunately not been able to see a ton of his film. So when I get to that, I will dive into it more. I just haven't been able to really find games on the guy. The other player, which I have been able to watch a little bit, Najee Reams. I hope I'm saying his name right. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. Najee Reams out of North Carolina A&T. And you love to see these guys get an opportunity, right? An HBCU player, a safety that has some size to him now, okay? Now, not like Bobby Price when he was coming out, but 6'2", 195 is where he's listed. But here's what'll make people excited. Here's a clickbait part. The guy reportedly ran a 4.25. Now, obviously, this ain't official. I was unable to find, you know, what his 40 exactly was, but I've read that he ran a 4.25 40. He was a track star coming out of high school, track and field star, and he is extremely fast, is what I have seen. So you look at the size, He is a lanky, long safety that you see as soon as you watch the film and you're like, okay, this guy's long in the back end. And then that straight line speed has to get you excited. A 4.25 40 is incredible. He seems to have some straight line speed, and we know, with football is that it's not just about straight line speed, because usually, it is about the anticipation. It is about the instincts. If those are slow, then you're not going to look that fast. A guy like Kyle Hamilton, really good instincts, so he looks a lot faster than really his 40 time shows up. So, there is always that give and take. But this is a player that last season put up 43 total tackles, 3 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. And then last year, or was it 2019, he had an interception. However, there was one game that he played against Duke, and I'm not saying he balled out in this game, because he didn't. He actually gave up some plays. I was able to watch on him, and you took notice. The guy had 9 total tackles in that game alone. I believe he also had his forced fumble in that game against Duke. So he had some production in that game for sure. And when you watch him, you see a little bit of what the Lions may be intrigued by here. To me, he's much more of a linear, long safety that has good straight line gliding speed, rather than being a quick, short, stocky. He's not that kind of safety. He didn't look extremely fluid and change of direction. He took some flat angles. He lost balance that time working downhill. Definitely did seem to look a little explosive and have that straight line speed. You immediately see it. He did get some man coverage assignments, but you saw kind of the instinctual burst to try to jump on routes. He looks like he could potentially have some upside as a man coverage player in terms of off coverage. Doesn't look like the type of player that you want to put in tight coverage and ask to, defend. Doesn't have that movement skills to do that, but off coverage, playing the sticks to jump on route breaks, that could be an area where he's interesting, especially at the catch point. He seems to be a pretty physical. You can see he's a little bit locked onto the receiver, but as soon as he sees the quarterback, that explosiveness potential. And he has the length to bat some passes away at the catch point, possibly have more production than he had in college. He's also a pretty downhill run defender. He's pretty instinctual. He got on some run plays very fast. Now, he does take some steep angles, and this can lead to some missed tackles, some, missed change of direction where he can get too steep. That downhill run defending, which can lead to tackles for loss. You see him keying on the offensive line. Curious to see what this looks like for the Detroit Lions. I think possibly putting him in a split coverage, he could be better where he only has to worry about half of the field. But you can see the versatility as a guy that's willing to come down and hit. You do see the breakdown. He will break down at the tackle point to be a reliable tackler. He's not like a thumper. But you did see him take some really flat, steep angles, and that could cause him to just miss tackles completely. And it just makes him look slower than he really is because his angles aren't very good. But a half-the-field guy that's willingness to come down and hit, he could be a guy that the Lions are interested schematically as a fit for sure. So I'm intrigued by this. Definitely has to clean up a lot of areas from what I saw from that game alone. But I'm intrigued by this signing. I'm curious to see, how this works out for the Lions. And if I can find more games on him, I'll definitely check those out. Those are the 3 players that have been reported the Lions are bringing in for a tryout for rookie minicamp, as well as the UDFAs and the draft picks. Plus, Jeff Okudah, I don't know if you guys saw it, that video that he put out day 223. He's continued to update us on his rehab, and man, he looks good. All right, we saw Cam Akers return from Achilles injury. Everybody is different, but he did that during the season. Okudah, he's eyeing to be back by training camp. I really hope he can, because he was a dog in free agency last season, in training camp last season. And man, if you get a pass rush and you look at how Lions are building this front four, this defensive line is what we should say, get excited, because if the Lions can stop the run and get after the quarterback, everybody in the back end is going to start looking better. And they already looked, they showed some promise, and they weren't even getting after the quarterback or stopping the run last season. So hopefully the Lions can start to implement some of that. Clearly their draft was focused upon that, and they want to see what these secondary players really can do. I think that's the Lions thing. It's hey, if you look pretty good, Amani was outstanding. Okudah looked awesome in training camp. What could these guys do if we start stopping the run and getting after the quarterback? We might actually have some here. Mike Hughes, there's a lot of potential in that room. I'm hoping Jeff Okudah can become that guy that we drafted, but I just really, over everything, just want to see him get healthy and get an opportunity to really show what he can be for a full season. It's a big year for him, because after this year, the Lions will, they have an opportunity to make a decision on his 5th-year option, and they can start negotiating long-term deals. So you really want to see him play. That way that can start to come into play, because as of now, you can't negotiate a long-term deal with a guy that just has not played. But after year 3, you can, and that will be year 3 for Jeff Okudah. So I'm excited to see it. You love to see that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on these 3 guys. We'll continue to dive into UDFAs, but next we're probably going to get into these draft prospects, break them down one by one, give out some letter grades, give out some prospect grades, and we'll continue up until the Detroit Lions offseason workouts. And then by that time, we're getting to training camp, and the season is just about underway. The draft was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed the content that we put from that. Shout out to the Lions. I mean, this background looks outstanding. It is beautiful. Shout out to Banks. Shout out to everybody that was there. It was awesome. Everybody that said, what's up? Newbie there. That was incredible as well. It was an awesome time. And I'm glad that we're getting this thing rolling, man. Hey, season is not that far out. And I'm expecting great things this year. I loved how the draft played out. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching. And I'm out.